Express on Smooth 98.1.
It keeps it doesn't go in.
Business Express. Brought to you by EnterSwitch.
Right?
Transaction solutions you can depend on.
Smooth 98.1. Love music, love life. I am Myra Exe here for a lovely Monday morning edition of your favorite business show on radio, Smooth Business Express, yeah, on
Yes.
Smooth 98.1. With me, of course, you heard his voice is Rotus. Morning,
Good
Rotus.
morning, Ayo.
How are you doing
I'm
today?
fine. Thank you so much. Good morning to everyone out there on
Mm.
our Love Music, Love Life station. Good morning to everybody.
I'm happy to see you, Rotus, because the last time I saw you, between then and now, you were involved in an
Yeah,
accident.
we talked about it
That's
with
on there.
Val. The unfortunate incident was being investigated now. Speaking with the
Fantastic.
special fraud unit at the police force, so they'll be still investigating. We'll see how
Well
that
done.
how
I'm glad
things
that you're
turn out.
taking it further.
We have to.
All right. If you'd like to join today's conversation, we'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions. Please send your message to WhatsApp 0809 444 0981. That's 0809 444 0981. On Twitter, we're at Smooth981FM. Use the hashtag Business Express 981.
Thanks. And we might start taking calls one day. I don't know. I think one or two
In
calls.
15
Yeah,
minutes?
yeah, we can. We might squeeze one of these days. We'll squeeze it in.
Okay,
We'll
one or
squeeze
two
in.
calls. All
We'll
right.
squeeze in a phone call.
Okay.
All right. So and that's depending on who is awake and who is out heading to work
Oh, there are
this
loads of
early morning.
people
Of
who
course,
are.
a lot of them. So MPC meeting is taking place today. 274th Monetary Policy Committee meeting. Central Bank kicking off about an hour and a half from now at 8 a.m. And central bank faces an interest rate decision. What do you do? What do you do? They cut the rate at the last meetings at we're at 12.5 right now. That's the benchmark interest rate. And the question is, where do they go from here? This is the primary, this is the primary assignment of the central bank with regards to managing the interest rates in the country. So if you were to go to the central bank's website, to cbn.gov.ng, to the right of the screen, you will see macroeconomic indicators. You will see inflation, you will see exchange rates, you will see the monetary policy rates, you will also see the crude oil prices. Yeah, and if you take a look there, the two things folks should focus on is this inflation and the monetary policy rate. So the last monetary policy rate as of Friday, July 10th, that was at 12.5%. Inflation for June, year on year, the Bureau of Statistics released that on Friday, and that has now increased for June to 12.56%. So inflation has been on an upward trajectory, and it's even been one of the if you look at, of course, this is, inflation comes from the CPI, Consumer Price Index, basket of goods and services that are weighed. You measure the prices and the movement of prices. Now, I don't know who's. Did anyone try buying eggs this weekend? I tried to get some eggs. A crate of large eggs, because I love my protein. It's very helpful in building muscle. If you guys should try this out. Boil your eggs, take out the yolk, and just eat the egg whites. It's fantastic source of protein. Large eggs is 1,005, right? This thing used to be 1,002, 1,035. Where is Prince? Prince is a farmer. He regularly sends in messages on WhatsApp. I think he does poultry in addition to other things, and it's 1,005 now for a crate of eggs. In fact, before I bought eggs this weekend, there was a shortage in my little market where I was buying. At least a couple of the guys I buy eggs from didn't have any. So what's up? He said, well, it's been I haven't been able to get eggs. Now the eggs are here. Prices have gone up. The smaller eggs, the regular size, that used to go for 1,000. That's now between 1,001 and 1,002. Plantains, but I love my plantains. Again, boil your plantains as opposed to frying. I'm doing smooth health now.
Well done.
So I always boil my food as opposed to frying because of the oil and cholesterol. So I like eating boiled plantains. And a bunch of plantains that used to go for this, the 500 naira size, the smaller size, and 1,000 naira. Now the one that used to be 500 naira is now 1,000. The one that used to be 1,000 naira is now 2,000. So the prices have been going up. You ask these guys what's going on, they will tell you that they're not able to. There's no egg for market, or no plantain for market, or it don't cost this, and that's what they keep telling you. So you can look at the border closures, you can look at the lockdowns, the issues with getting the food from the farms over to the urban centers. food inflation is at 15%, 15.08, I believe it's moved up for the year on year in June from May. So this feeds into headline inflation, and this is the constant battle to where, and it's not just Nigeria that's meeting. Ghana is meeting this week. I think Angola is meeting this week. South Africa is meeting this week. I think Kenya is meeting this week. All in the space of like a week, about 9 sub-Saharan African nations are going to be making decisions on their rate cuts. If you look at the other countries, South Africa has cut rates about 3 or 4 times. Their inflation fell to a 15-year low in May to 2.4%. Their target is at 3%. I think Ghana, what is inflation for Ghana? 11.9. Their benchmark rates are 14. So for other countries, their benchmark rates are higher, outpacing inflation. But Nigeria, if you go to the central bank's website, cbn.gov.ng, inflation is at 12.56. The monetary policy rate is at 12.5. If you want to get granular, want to get technical, inflation has actually outpaced the interest rate. So now what do you do? That's now the question. Do you raise rates in order to raise interest rates to outpace inflation? If you do that, you are raising the cost of borrowing, and you're like constricting demand and making things more expensive for people to borrow. Although, some people will argue that, the rate is really just ceremonial, and that if you look at where, the cost of borrowing is, it's a lot higher, right? About, if you want to borrow now, it's 20-something%. I spoke to a startup. Oh gosh, what's the name of that startup? Is it Ninja Blurb? There's some startup I spoke over the weekend. He was talking to me about raising funds, right? And I actually reached out to a venture capital firm and say, hey, would you like to fund these guys? And like, well, they're a little too early, early stage. They need to show some traction before we can fund them, and they may have to go to commercial banks. And I told them, I was like, hey, these venture capital guys, they're like, well, they want you to go and show what you can do before they can look at funding you. You might have to go to a bank. And he was like, I can't go to a bank. The rates are way too high. So anyway, that's just to bolster the point that the benchmark interest rate, with what the central bank did last time in cutting the rates, it was just more of an accommodating stance. Does it really, have we felt that effect? Has anyone felt rates moving from the last time that it was cut? So they may want to wait and see if there will still be a movement from that last cut, but inflation continues to rise. And if you look at the trajectory of inflation going through to the end of the year, some have said, of course, I think everyone is saying we're going to remain in double-digit rates because we're at 12.5 now. The central bank's target for inflation is 9%, so single digits. We haven't had a single-digit interest rate since Lamido Sanusi left office. He was the last CBN governor that got us to 9%, and he aggressively targeted it. So I don't know if they're going to be able to do that. Now, that's whether or not they increase rates. Do they cut the rates? Can't cut the rate because they have one eye on foreign exchange, and if you cut rates, you might spur a little bit of liquidity in the market, and I'll push funds to go and start speculating and chasing foreign exchange. So it's a delicate balance within having to chase inflation and also having to keep an eye on liquidity levels. What's Moses saying here? Moses Umoru.
Yeah, Moses Umoru on WhatsApp says inflation at 12.4% is not a reflection of what we see every day. See the exchange rate and the price of consumables. See the rate is 50%. So
You see,
even saying it's higher.
Right, it's much higher. So thank you. Thank you for that, Moses. That's what I was alluding to. As to the rate. Yeah.
I have a question though. But during the lockdown, we had the price of eggs crash, and I don't know if you bought eggs at the time. And the reason for this was that we had a number of the consumers of eggs, people who purchase for hotels, restaurants, people who would use eggs for food, shutting, not being in operation. And so we saw I don't know if you saw the picture of a number of eggs being thrown out because eggs have a short shelf life. And so I remember we were doing bonanzas and all that. So what's changed? Because it's not as if things have returned. We're not fully back in operation in terms of economic activity. So what has changed to make the prices skyrocket and say that it's scarce? It's really surprising.
Well, maybe I missed that, but for me, buying eggs regularly where I buy them, the price for a crate of eggs has been at 1,000 naira. It has not moved downwards for me at my market. Anyone else who's been purchasing eggs recently, you can send in a message and confirm whether or not they've moved up and down. So consistently, you've got your wholesale buyers, hotels and restaurants and so on, and you've got, you and I on the retail
regulars.
regular end. So for me, I'm only speaking from my perspective as to the price. In my again, Shango Tedo market where I buy mine, and the same shortage that they are alluding to is what I've seen with plantains. So if supply chains, exactly. So if deliveries are affected, it's simple demand and supply. If supply goes down, it becomes more scarce, becomes more expensive. So that's pretty much the only explanation I can give from my own perspective, trying to buy. So it's something that is hitting our pockets collectively. Real quick on foreign exchange, since Moses mentioned that there's also the pass-through effects of FX, PMS prices, and so on inflation. But let's take a quick another message.
Inka has one. He says this one that Reuters believes CBN website too, because the only thing that works on any of such websites in Nigeria is their payment portal. That is the one program to collect money from your card.
I'm actually getting there. Speaking of your card, Inka, okay.
MI from Makoka says Reuters known is that the CBN shouldn't always use monetary policies to fix fiscal issues. So much for single and searching digits. By the way, link me up with your grocery guys. Those guys should shut down with their prices. Then Harry Manuel says, for me, eggs has been 1,200 since the beginning and remains unchanged.
You see, so these are items. I mean, there you go. He's buying at 1,200. So.
Michael from Marina says cost of feeds may be high, which may be then consequently mean cost of eggs go higher. And then demand. We have this from Dickbot says demand reduced, fixed operation remains the same. Supply would reduce, the price would increase. So that explanation. Thank you. Dio from Surulere says, good morning, Roses and Ayo. Have you guys heard the word shrinkflation? It's when food producers shrink product sizes as an alternative to increasing price. I agree. That's even more common now.
Good point.
Very true.
Good point.
Which would you prefer actually, shrinkflation or inflation? And thanks for that word.
Well, that's a good. You're putting me on the spot. Maybe I would go with. I want the same quantity of what I get.
So you'd rather pay higher?
Yes, because you're shortchanging me by reducing the amount of what I get for the prior price.
How I look at it this way, it means you can still taste, have a taste of what you enjoy.
It's a smaller quantity. You're cheating me.
Fit fam, you're the one who came to your health this morning.
You're cheating me. Okay.
And we have this from Jonah. Oh, okay. Jonah just with. I think he wants
maybe
to
retire, but I think he said inflation may hit. I think he said 18% or so.
Right.
If you are
he's back. He says the way things are going, inflation may likely hit 18% for year end. Roses, can you recommend the best place to invest to hedge against this inflation?
Jonah, that is the $1 million question. Like I said, maybe hit me up on Twitter. Again, I keep mentioning the same guys. There's only one fintech firm, because they lend at such a high rate. They lend at 22%. They can afford to give their fixed deposits at 15.5 for a full year. I don't want to advertise their services on it, so you have to hit me up on Twitter. But they begin with a C. You have to look at the lend again. But then there's now the safest place to leave your money is with the banks, the commercial banks. That's the safest place, regulated by the CBN. When you now start going with these fintech companies, you have to now check the management. This particular company, they are linked with they're linked to the former commercial bank, so they've got banking experience. So you want to do all your homework before you now go put money with these places. Or precious metals. I was talking to an analyst last week. Gold, silver, the new gold ETF, which is an exchange traded fund that trades on the Nigerian Stock Exchange. It's been doing well because of the volatility, all the wahala between the US and China. People have been going into gold. So you may want to look at precious metals as well with regards to hedging against inflation.
All right.
Are we done? I didn't even get to the issue with banks. Okay,
note,
tomorrow. Yeah.
All right.
I like that. Precious notes.
We'll come to the end of Business Express 901 for today. Don't forget personal finance, right, this evening?
No, marketplace. The marketplace. Yeah.
The marketplace this evening at 5:15 during Smooth Drive. In the meantime, stay tuned for some great smooth music here, following which will bring you the review of today's national news headline stories in freshly pressed 981. Stay tuned.
Express. Brought to you
Thank
by
you.
Thank you very much.
Transaction Solutions. You can be
Okay. No, I don't think so. Actually,
Business Express
I think
on
it's tomorrow.
Smooth 98.1.
So I'm going to leave your card.
Every